All right, looks like we're on. Welcome everyone to the Flux Dev Meeting. Today is the 16th of March. Just have a brief look at the agenda. Did we have actions from last time? Nope. Yeah, I think, Sunny, you had an update for us.
So overall, for refactoring related things, source control is almost ready. We're waiting for some changes to the Git implementation. We have a managed transport for Liquid 2 now, which will help us not depend on C libraries when we are doing any Git operations. We use the Go native transport that's been merged like an hour ago. So the next source control release, which will have all the rewrites, will also have this new Git transport option, but it's behind the environment variable. You have to set a variable called experimental Git transport, set it to 1 or true, and then you'll be using the Go native transport for all the Git operations. So we hope that this will help with all the issues with the C transports that we have seen that causes the controller to just hang. It maintains the connection and just keeps any of the workers busy. So if you have multiple workers, they continue to work, but the worker that's using transport just hangs forever. You have to restart the controller to make it release the whole thing. So in this, we have Go transport, which has proper context. So there's a timeout. Timeouts will cancel everything. And this will be released in Mesh automation as well. So we hope this will solve both the issues.
I have a question about that. So the native transport is only about HTTPS, or it also affects the SSH cloning?
SSH is still using the C libraries. Wait, I think I saw a comment about that. I don't remember exactly. I have to check it. There is a comment about.
I think it's only for HTTP. I mean, I'm just looking at the PR, and I think it's only for HTTP.
There is a comment at that, but the issues we have seen are related to SSH, right?
Yep.
They could not read
waiting on socket things.
some socket, right?
Yeah.
So the hanging was for HTTPS transport. I thought it was for SSH.
SSH. I remember it was SSH, but first, Follow was saying it helps with SSH as well. Need to verify. Didn't check that.
So init manage transport initializes HTTPS and SSH manage transport for Git to go. So yes, it changes both transports. So
there is a comment somewhere.
So there is a chance that could fix this stalling of controllers for good, because if it would only work for HTTPS, most people have this stall, this freeze problem with SSH, so it wouldn't fix much. But looking at the comments, I see that applies to both.
I read a comment somewhere that about C transport still. I can't find it anymore. But from my understanding, this was about to solve that as well. I'll find it later.
Awesome. So we need
I can see tests targeting SSH, so I think it might help with SSH as well.
Yeah, so the issue with this stuff is that we've merged this, but it has no documentation. So Sunny, if you can create an issue. So we don't release source control until we have this flag in the API spec and we tell people how to enable it. Then after we publish source controller with this experimental flag, then we can go back to those issues and ask people to read the docs on how to enable it and try it out, right? Because without docs, it's not even there. No one knows how to enable it and what's all about. So I missed this in the review. We also have to, so after we release source controller, we can't do a Flux release because the new packages have breaking changes in terms of interfaces. So you cannot have dependencies on two different runtimes.
We have patches for all of the repositories, which fixes this.
Yeah, so first we release source controller and its API and the controller itself. Then we have to redo image automation controller. And then all the others to update the runtime packages and patch the things, right? And we have some pull requests open for that, correct? I don't know if it's every.
They have requests in all the repositories related to this.
Notification controller doesn't have it, for example.
Oh, right, that's the one that initially we created for customize and Helm. And then last week I created for image reflector and image automation. Notification is there. I'll create that.
Yes, Helm has it, Customize has it. Let me see image reflector. Yes, so the only one left is notification controller.
I got a clarity on why C library is still used. So only for credential management, C library is still used, but for transport in SSH, Go native transport is used. So there is some lack of some interfaces that's provided by Git2Go for managing the credentials for SSH. So we hope it will fix everything.
Did we manage to reproduce this?
Reproduce the issue.
The stalling, the Go routine that gets blocked?
Not like intentionally, but it happened in my kind cluster itself. And I was just investigating what was happening. And I was able to analyze the behavior that one worker is busy with that connection, but the other workers still work. They're still processing. If one repository is using libgit2 and it's stuck, I can create another repository using libgit2 that continues to work. So we did a lot of analysis, how it's behaving, and then we hope this fixes all that.
Yeah, so over time, with the current version, at some point, all the workers will be stuck, right? If you have 4 libgit2 repos, we have 4 workers, it's almost impossible to not get stuck over a large period of time, right? Because at some point, each one will get a different repo. That one doesn't close the transport gets stuck, and the Go routine never exits.
Like the C code doesn't provide any way to cancel things.
Yeah.
But now we have more control. We have some more improvements in how we handle redirects. So if you try to clone something and that server redirects you to somewhere else, we have checks that if there is a downgrade in the HTTP protocol, if you are using HTTPS and downgrades you to HTTP, we don't allow that anymore. And then if there's a domain change, you go to github.com, it redirects you to somewhere else. Again, that's not allowed. So we have all those checks now.
Wouldn't that affect people that are using proxies?
I was thinking about it, but need to test it and find out.
If there is a transparent proxy, then it shouldn't
It'll
affect
work.
it because you actually connect to that original domain. But yeah, I'm guessing if we check the domain, that it will definitely not work for non-trans SOX proxies or whatever. There are so many of those.
If we're using, let's say, some github.com, right, as the GitHub server, and GitHub replies with a 301, and it says that you need to go to this, and like in the response body, it will have the domain, right, that you need to go to this server to get the repository. So why is that not valid? Because the user specified a domain, and that domain is responding with a valid redirect response code 301. So I think we should redirect.
No, that's valid. That's valid if it's under github.com itself. If it goes somewhere else, then
it's a different domain itself. If it's like it's a permanent redirect. Let's say it's a 302. If it's a permanent redirect, I think we should still allow that as long as the response code is valid. I think we should.
So there is a range 302 to 308. We allow that, but if you change the domain, we don't allow that.
What about subdomains?
I think that will work.
That should
I haven't
work.
tested it. That should work. I haven't tested it. But it should work.
Because that's also
The
a valid
host
use case where you redirect to a subdomain, but you keep the same domain, and we should definitely allow that. I think GitHub Enterprise does such a thing. Yeah, anyway, people will have to enable the flag, and we'll see what issues we'll have with it. So when are we going to start rebasing all these pull requests? This week or next one? Or?
So we are hoping to release source control as soon as possible. We're waiting for this change to get in. And I have another PR which is ready to merge. I need to do a rebase, I guess, because of the transport merge, which adds a new status condition in source controller related to any storage failures. Mm-hmm. So from now, if there is any dietary creation failure or anything, it'll be clearly visible in the conditions. Previously, it didn't used to be there. So that'll also be there. Oh wait, that's already merged. I have the PR which reorders the conditions, prioritizes the storage condition over some other conditions. It's a small thing. I'll merge that. And then we can do a source control release. So today or early tomorrow.
Yeah, so let's say ideally by the end of this week, we could have all these pull requests rebased and ready for reviews everywhere in all controllers. Right. So we refactored notification controller. That should be very easy to just bump the versions because it uses the new conditions and everything. So that should
I have
be
a feeling we'll need to refactor a little more because from the time that was refactored, including the image automation, all those controls were refactored. They didn't take into consideration all the new things we added in source controller. Like they were trying to do minimum things that made it use the new packages. But source controllers, the new API is so rich now. The status API provides you so much of information, which other controllers refactor implementation doesn't do that. So I have a feeling we have to do more refactoring to make other controllers rich in what they provide.
That's for sure. What I'm aiming at is to get all the controllers on the new package version and do the minimum changes to be able to do a Flux 2 release with source controller refactored.
Right.
So we get that out, people are starting using it, we get feedback on that. And while we are doing this, of course, we have to rewrite the conditions logic in most controllers. I mean, in customized controller, it's a lot of work to do there because conditions are, there are two conditions. No, there are like two conditions, and one condition is only set when you have health checks enabled. So there is ready and healthy, and there are relationship between the two. And also the ready and healthy conditions are updated while the reconciliation runs. For example, there are different stages in the apply. If we apply something and that works, we set the status in ready. Hey, now we are running the health checks. It will take 5 minutes, right? So people understand by just doing a get of that customization why it hasn't finished yet, right? So we update near real time what's happening in the status, right? So you cannot just update the status at the beginning, at the end, and at the end, like source controller does it. In customized controller, you have to, after you do some stuff, you have to update the status, do some stuff again, update the status, maybe different conditions, ready or healthy, and so on. Right? So it's more complicated than source controller because the reconciliation loop is taking a long time because it does a bunch of stuff, not only a single operation like apply. It does apply dry run, which is a validation. It does apply, and depending on if you enable health checks or not, then it waits for everything to become ready. And this is very similar to what Helm controller does, right? Helm controller will install or upgrade the release, then Helm itself pulls all the statuses of all the resources and waits for them to become ready. And I would really like to see in Helm controller the same approach as we have now in customized controller, where we have a dedicated condition for the health check that's different from the ready one, right? And the main reason I introduced this condition is to not spam events for nothing. For example, you make a change, that change was successfully reconciled, but then the health check fails. So we issue an event, hey, health check failed. And then we allow people to do a retry only when the health check failed. And they can do the retry for shorter intervals than the apply interval. So you can say, hey, I want to reconcile this customization every 10 minutes, but if it fails, retry it every 1 minute. Now, I don't want to send 10 notifications with the same error, health check failed, every time it fails. So having this condition, I can determine, should I send an event or not? If from unhealthy switches to healthy, I'm sending an event. And then if it's healthy again, it keeps being healthy, I don't send events anymore. But then if it flips to unhealthy only, then we send an event, right? Is somehow similar to what you did with source controller with the recovery. This is how it's done in customized controller by using this dedicated condition, right? And I think it will be good to have this healthy condition in Helm controller as well, because, well, the install or the upgrade worked, like the YAMLs are good, etc. The API accepted it, but then something failed on a health check. So maybe it will be good to reflect that in a different condition.
Regarding intermediate patching, I had a lot of discussions with Hide how to do that. And we decided we'll try that in Helm controller first before trying it in customize. So we have created some options in source controllers, the summarize package that does the summarize and patching thing, which allows you to do some intermediate patching in between. you don't have to reconcile the whole thing. In between, you can do patch, but we still don't have a proof of work, an example that this actually works. APIs let you do that, but we don't have an proper example. So we'll try that in Helm controller. And if it works well, maybe we can adopt it in customized also.
Great.
And I think Terraform controller, that also needs something similar.
Yeah.
I've heard.
Yeah, in customized controller, I'm using a JSON patch. Basically, it computes only the changes to that particular status condition, and it runs a patch with an update, which is not how we should do it from this moment forward. I think we should adopt server-side apply everywhere, and everything should be run through a server-side apply instead of an update patch. But we can go forward, implement the patch everywhere, and then change the way we do patching and switch to server-side apply in the package that in the runtime package. So it shouldn't require controller changes when we fully switch to server-side apply for every operation. Another example are finalizers. We use update to add the finalizers, and that means customized controller that applies the custom resource gets into a conflict with the controller that shouldn't touch the spec at all, because it's Helm controller shouldn't touch the Helm release spec, right? Because it's not in its power to do that. But because finalizers are there, it needs to run an update for the whole thing. So we found that early on after we implemented server-side apply, and Kingdom changed it to a patch from an update, but it's still a client-side update instead of a server-side. So we should definitely adopt server-side apply. So customized controller will be, in the future, we want to have like an allow list of controllers that are allowed to change things outside status. And in order to do that, we should migrate everything to server-side apply, and that should make things easier. But I'm not for doing that now. Let's move forward with the current plan, and we can do it later on. But anyway, we should really make sure we never update the whole resource. Like no controller should do that. Everything should be, all the operations should be done on specific fields with patches. Yeah, so yeah, I think that's it. The plan is hopefully next week we are ready to do a Flux 2 release with the new source controller.
We had a release yesterday, or today, early morning. Do you have any confirmation about fixes? Like, there were some issues in EKS, right?
Yes,
related to FS group.
Yeah, we have set the file system group at pod level only for the controllers that they require some IAM role binding to access external services. For example, source controller can use an IAM role to access S3, an S3 bucket, or customized controller who can access KMS for sequence decryption. Now something happened, and looks like you can no longer read the service account token if you don't have an FS group set. So because notification controller and Helm controller didn't need to reach out to some AWS service, we didn't have FS group there. So we added that to unblock Flux installations on EKS. But there is also this strange issue where, for example, in their documentation, they say, oh, but FS group is no longer required in newer version of EKS, only 118. But I've tested 121 with Fargate instead of managed node groups, and it fails without an FS group. So I feel like setting an FS group is not impactful in any way on any other clusters, I don't know, GKE or whatever. So it's not harmful. We can leave it there until, I don't know, AWS figures out what's going on and so on. Since we are already using fixed IDs, the user ID inside the container, which is nobody, the user group, which is nobody. I think it's okay to also set a fixed ID for the FS group. It shouldn't have any impact. But yeah, that's why we did that release, just to add that field there. So for people that are using Fargate, all controllers can spin up now on Fargate tasks.
I was wondering if the work you talked about earlier, is any of that on the, or are you using the project board, the maintainers focus? Here's a link to it.
We are using that, right?
Oh yeah, okay. So the work you talked about earlier, like the refactoring, for example, and all the other bits, is it on there?
I think it is there. Didn't check,
Yeah.
but must be there. Hidden and Paulo have been maintaining it.
Yeah, so
Okay.
Daniel, if you see pull requests with update package runtime, that's the refactoring work, right? We only source controller is now using the new runtime package, which is fine, but we have to upgrade all the other controllers to use the same runtime package because it comes with the breaking change. So in this maintainers focus project, we should have an update package runtime for every single controller. And that should be ready for merge by the end of this week. And I see that we only have 2 of those. Is customize and Helm. We should also add here image reflector controller. And notification controller. An image. Yeah, so there are like 3 pull requests missing from this project. I'll add them. What's the right way to add? So I'm going here, or I can go to the pull request itself, or it doesn't matter.
So what I just did was to basically take the URL of the issue or PR, then copy paste it into the project board. I just added the image reflector. Sorry, the image reflector controller. Can you see that?
Yes. Okay, you have to also set the status, which should be blocked because we haven't yet released source controller.
Got it.
Once we do the source controller release, all these can be marked as in progress. Yeah, so we are, yeah, this is great because now it's way more clear what things are missing.
This is really, really fantastic. I think
this is the new interface of projects.
Yes, yes.
And this is public now?
Yes.
Great.
Okay. Yeah. I was thinking of also maybe blogging about this so people just know what's going on, what's coming next, and maybe also if anyone was interested in helping like the next release get out. And I know that nobody is going to come in and do like a big refactoring for us, but if there's like smaller things that need to be done that are still on the list, I think that would help with transparency.
Yep. Okay, I will add to the project things that got merged in customized controller but are not yet released, but will be part of the next release, because there are some big things like Azure Key Vault multi-tenancy support and stuff like that.
All right.
So I copy the link address, then I paste it in there, right? That's
Yes.
the...
I'm sure there's another way to do it, but that's what just worked for me. Sounds like the next release is also going to be a big one, including quite a lot of good work.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other things for the current dev focus or what's happening on the way to GA?
No, it's...
We can talk about Helm chart verification. Sanskar, can you share
Is that merged?
progress? It's not merged, it's almost ready.
Just one second.
I think we'll merge it after the source controller release. So it'll be in the next.
We did a round of review yesterday, and I made those changes that we recommended. So yeah, it should be good to go. I mean, tests are passing. I mean, tests are passing. Everything else is on track only. So yeah, like I don't see any blockers. And I took into consideration your like how you can pass a slice of callbacks to the remove condition function. So I added that. Yeah.
So in source controller, we have in garbage collection, we use a method called remove all but latest or something. So
remove all current.
Huh? Remove
all
all?
But current.
Right. So in this case, the Helm chart introduces a provenance file in the artifact directory. So which is unique to Helm charts. Other controllers don't have such a thing. So we need to pass a custom logic to the garbage collector to tell it to delete that file. While working on these, I was wondering what's the trust boundary between these different components. Like Helm chart has now, or it will have verification of the chart. So source controller, sorry, it'll have a verified chart. So should Helm controller verify the chart it's getting from source controller?
No, I think source controller should verify the chart provenience from the Helm repository.
Mm-hmm.
Then it says the checksum for that in the status. Then when Helm controller fetches the Helm chart, just checks the checksum, because if the checksum is there, then source controller has already done the provenience. I don't think we should move provenience inside our system. Like, for example, customized control does not check the PGP signature of Git repos, right? Source control does that. Then it gets the checksum in there, and customized control only verifies the checksum. I don't want to ask for getting all these verification things, which are from outside the cluster, inside the system, right? The gateway, the artifact gateway inside our system is source control. So all provenience verifications should be done only there. And from there, the checksum should be the truth about artifacts in our system.
So all the components trust source controller.
Yes, and the checksum that source controller has set, right?
Mm-hmm. Okay.
It's the same way as you verify the Flux binary when you download it, right? You get the checksums, you download the binary, then you verify, hey, is this checksum matches the binary. If you want to verify the provenience, you download the checksum, then you use cosign to verify that, okay, we ask the Flux team has signed this checksum. The checksum is, we can trust it, and then you use the checksum to verify the binary. Right? We don't sign the binary, we only sign the checksums. And I think this trust chain should be reflected in for controllers as well. The only, let's say, issue here is a man in the middle between customizing Helm controller and source controller, right? So if there is something in the middle that acts as source controller, you'll download that artifact made by something else, and the checksum should fail, right? Because it will not match if someone, it's something in the middle that injects something in the artifact. But we cannot defend against someone that creates this in the middle source controller, but also has cluster admin access and can change the things in etcd. Because if it has cluster admin access, what's the point of protecting the Flux controllers? Because that thing can apply all stuff on the cluster. So it can, I don't know, deploy a malware or whatever inside the cluster. I don't think it makes sense for us to add more protections against something that can write to etcd. It's like, how would that help?
What's left to protect? The game is up. They have cluster admin.
Yes. It's like, what can we do from there? Is like nothing. There are other tools that can help here, like the runtime runtime validation tools that are actually scanning in real-time traffic between pods and Kubernetes API. They look at changes and so on, but that's out of Flux objectives.
So, like similar to Helm charts, I think you can sign OCI artifacts with cosign as well.
Yes.
So eventually, once we eventually add OCI support, I was thinking we could have something more generic in place for verifying the signature of artifacts, because right now this is like a very Helm chart custom solution. Because
yeah. So if you look at the proposal I made for OCI repositories, there is like Git repositories, there is a verify field in the spec, and the type is cosign. And then, for example, when you apply plain YAMLs from OCI, you can verify it with cosign. If you apply Helm releases from OCI, so the Helm chart is in the OCI repo, you'll be able to do the same verification. Because from a source controller perspective, it doesn't matter if it's a chart in there, or if there are plain YAMLs, or if there is a customized overlay. In the end, there are some files, they are bundled in a tar, and that tar is signed, right? So we verify it no matter what's in there. We don't care what's in there. So yeah, that's definitely an improvement, right? Because right now we do some special thing for Git using OpenPGP. Then now again, we do some other special thing for Helm also using OpenPGP. But OpenPGP is a thing that we should evolve, move to other tools, better tools, let's say.
I'm thinking we could modify the artifact API to like have this built in, like have the signature verification built in, because right now the artifact does not say anything about whether the signature of the actual tarball has been verified or not. So maybe we could move. So right now it just says checksum, which we compute and for other controllers, but we don't actually have any signature information in the artifact itself.
Yeah, we could maybe add a condition or something, verified.
Yeah. So right now we have a
Maybe
condition. Right now we have a condition which says source verified.
Okay. And what's wrong with that?
No, I was thinking that maybe we could. So like right now, if you need to pull, so Helm charts have provenance files, and like if you have a similar kind of entity like a provenance files for some other artifact. So right now we pull it, but we don't store it on the object itself. Like we kind of unofficially keep it around in the file system, but it's not actually stored on the object. Like the artifact is stored on the object, right? So I was thinking maybe we could modify the artifact to store it store the file as well.
I don't see how is that possible. Like, why would you alter a Helm chart to store the signature inside if the Helm chart
Not the
feature
Helm chart itself.
specification says that the signature is external?
Not the Helm chart itself, like the artifact that the source control produces. The artifact that the source controller produces. So the artifact is basically a tarball, right? And so we need to we store the Helm chart as a tarball, and we also store the provenance file, and it kind of like shadows the tarball where it's on the file system. But the artifact itself is recorded on the object on the Kubernetes object, but the provenance file isn't recorded. But we assume that it's there in the file system right now. So I was thinking maybe we could record it on the object as well.
Yeah, maybe the file path should be on that condition.
Yeah.
Verified, here is the path locally on source controller, where is the verified against this file. Now I get it. You don't want to bundle the two files. You want to have somewhere a place where we tell it, hey, this is the actual signature that we verified against. Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah, but like this PR is ready from my side. If there's any reviews, like it's good. Otherwise, it's good.
Yeah, another thing that we could do is in the artifact structure that we serialize inside the status, we could have there an optional field where we can store the path to the key or the actual key. I don't know how we are going to deal with cosign, because cosign has two ways of verifying. One is keyless signing. When you do the verification, you verify with a CA. And another way is you manage your own keys. So you generate your private key and a public key, and then you have to give Flux the public key, right? So and that will be in a secret or something. So it will not be in source controller file system. It will be something inside the cluster, like the Git PGP keys are now. So maybe in the artifact struct, we should refer to a file on source controller disk, or to the object that contains the secret name that contains that thing. Yeah, we have to discuss it. I'm not sure if it makes sense to merge all this stuff, because they are very different, right? For PGP and cosign, you'll have the keys stored in the cluster in a secret, but for Helm, these things are remote. Right?
Yeah.
A few weeks ago, I saw or a month ago, an issue someone created about publishing Cyclone DX as form. Have you seen that issue? I can paste the link. It's a discussion. I can paste the link in the meeting. I think they are talking about publishing some more as form related things. I'll paste it at the end of the document. Just wanted to know, what should we do about that?
Yes, I have responded there. We basically use the format of a project which is in Linux Foundation. Kubernetes does the same. If Kubernetes will publish SBOM in both formats, we'll probably follow their lead. So I would say wait for Kubernetes to finish the SBOM implementation and see what they are doing differently from us. Then analyze if it makes sense for us to adopt the formats that Kubernetes is using, and then implementing it. the tool that we are currently used to generate SBOM knows both formats. So in theory, it shouldn't be hard to add just a new file with a different extension there. But let's see how other projects are doing it. And I'm not quite sure I understand the differences between the two. So yeah, I have to look into that and read all the look into differences and yeah, have a better opinion that, hey, we chose this because yeah, we are a Linux Foundation project and that thing is also a Linux Foundation project, and that's the sole reason I've choose that format. I don't favor one thing over the other. It was that was the reason I chose it.
So I just recalled Janvid posted something on Flux and Terraform controller channel on our Slack, where Alpine 3.15 has a new CV, and I think we use Alpine 3.15 across all controllers right now. And so I think we need to patch that as well.
Yes, it will be good to patch that before the next release.
Yeah.
So yeah, we definitely have to make sure we can patch it in source controller before we tag it. I've seen it is yeah, all the scanners will blow.
Yeah.
I have one more question before we end. So we came across an issue, we're pasting the link in the document about running some job before and after Helm release upgrade. Just wanted to know, what do we think about such an option?
If you're asking me, I will say no.
No,
Like they're already.
like what do we reply? That then.
I mean, Helm already has a pre-installed pre-upgrade hook, which runs a job, and it also has a post-install post-upgrade hook, which can run jobs. Should we duplicate all this stuff and run our own jobs and do, I don't know, Flux job controller on our own? I know others are doing this.
Argo has some hooks.
Argo does not support Helm at all. They just do Helm templates, so they have their own thing to replace the Helm hooks, I don't know, Argo hooks or however they are called. Others are using Tecton for that, Tecton pipelines. Capitan, or I don't know how it's called. They also have this job controller. The job controller idea came early on, I don't know, 2 years ago when we started with Flux version 2, and yeah, maybe we should reconsider it after we finish everything around GA. I don't know. It's up for discussion. I'm not saying a hard no right now to a job controller. But yeah, should we build that, or we should tell people, hey, we could offer you a webhook mechanism like Flagger has, and it's up to you how to run those jobs and look after them. Maybe you use Tecton, maybe you use something else, and so on, instead of us, creating something that will look like Tecton, right? That can run whatever you want in there, fetch the result, do something with it, and so on. It's like, I would say, low priority, and definitely not before GA. I think so. So most people said, okay, if I want to run, let's say, a database migration or something, I can only do it with Flux right now if I bundle my things in a Helm chart and I use the Helm hooks before upgrade. But that's not possible with customized controller, because customized controller has no idea about hooks. But customized controller has the idea of dependencies, and customized controller can recreate jobs if you do a force through. So you could imagine like you have these two customizations. One customization are migration jobs, and the other customization is the app itself, right? And you could say app depends on my app migration jobs. And that means every time you update something, customized controller will first run the jobs, and then it will upgrade the app or not, depending on the job result. So that should cover everything. Well, case status does not wait for jobs, because for some reason they considered we are going to ignore jobs. We don't care about jobs. We only care about deployment and stateful sets. So in order to make this happen, we have to create an extension to case status. Hopefully case status now supports custom status readers. And we should write a reader for the job type. And this is an issue in customized controller. Now, how can that be used with Helm? Well, you wrap your Helm release in a customization. You have another customization that runs before it. It has Kubernetes jobs in there. And if we resolve the case status wait for jobs, then we can offer people a way to run things before a Helm upgrade, right? Without inventing our own webhooks, without having a job controller and so on. But it's currently, all this is stuck in the case status issue. Yeah, at some point we should write this case status reader. It shouldn't be that hard. We have to copy paste things from upstream, how they do it for deployments, and adapt a little bit that reader to fit the cron thing. Because in the end, a cron job creates a pod, so we just have to look at the pod in the same way the replica set looks at its jobs, right? So in theory, it shouldn't be that hard to implement.
I've seen that code. They have implementation for each of the native types, native objects. Create more.
Yeah, we have to do our own for jobs, because there is an issue like from 2 years ago, I think, on case status about that, and they didn't respond to it. So I'm guessing they don't care about jobs and waiting for jobs. So, but we care because it enables Flux users a use case which is nice. Like I want to run my migrations before everything else, which makes a lot of sense to me when you don't use Helm.
Thank you for explaining all that, because that question came up in the Slack yesterday, and I
think it comes up every week.
Yeah, I just came up with the solution on the spot that you prescribed there, and I stopped short of telling them you should try this because I didn't know if it would work. So now at least I know why it won't work.
No, it won't work. Here is the.
Thank you.
Yeah, we're out of time now. Did anyone have anything else to discuss? Because if not, I have a couple of very brief updates. So in one of the last meetings, I talked about the documentation refactoring, or basically the information architecture. So I talked to people at the CNCF. They have a tech docs, like professional technical writers. And one of them, forgot his name. He asked me to put a request into service desk. And it looks like in about a month, they're going to have time again. So in the meantime, I will work on basically like a proposal, how to, reflow our documentation and then review it together with them. So I have a good feeling now that knowing that professional people are going to look over this. So we're not going to shoot ourselves in the foot and then redo the information architecture, 2 months later, yet another time. So this is great. As some of you might have noticed, I moved some of my attention to writing blog posts lately, and I feel and the feedback has been great so far. I think it's good if we start telling more of the stories that are happening with Flux, or the thought processes that went into things. And I was thinking of doing one about server-side apply next. Let me know your thoughts if you have anything else you would rather have me focus on. Just let me know.
We have that, right? There is a blog post that announced server-side apply
Yes,
last year.
yes, exactly. So there we basically warn people that it's going to come soon and how they prepare themselves for it, and a little explanation of why we do this. But I thought it would make sense to expand on it a little more, and also in general explain like why we wrap so tightly around also the Git APIs, for example, or Helm, that we're not chilling out to the tools and then just see what happens, but actually that this is a design principle behind Flux that are where, other cloud native tools are not doing it so well as Flux does. And I think pointing this out in a blog post is good. Yeah.
Maybe a better thing to do is to write a blog post about Git and what we are currently using, what's the differences between Go Git, Lead Git 2, why we had to implement the C bindings. Make a picture of Sunny really angry and Paulo. He does where he thought with build failures like months ago. It was like, I was so lucky I didn't have to deal with all of that. You guys have did it, but we should also tell the human factor. Like this was a major, it was stressful, but in the end, we did that to solve real issues and to tighten up security and have better control of what Flux actually does. And Git is one of the core things. Yeah. So,
GitOps without Git.
Sunny, Paulo, Hide could help you out writing the behind doors stories, the horror stories.
Good thinking. And it makes perfect sense, there's no GitOps without Git. So it should have its own story, right?
Yes.
And the blog website right now, and I'm not sure if we should do this. I'm just like throwing an idea out there. We don't have any trackers which like measure how many hits we are getting on the blog or anything like that. Like how many views we are getting, like trackers basically. How many views we're getting from which areas. I don't know if it goes against like the CNCF project code of conduct or something. Maybe I don't know, it does. But yeah, I mean, I guess it could be helpful to figure out like how extensive is the reach of the blog.
There's good news about that. We actually are collecting the Netlife Statistics now. As of 3 days ago, we have a stats repo where there is the easiest way to access it on a daily basis is the Google Sheet. I'll put that link in the meeting notes. But there's also a release that pulls more granular data monthly where you can see which pages are hit how often. So we will have that information from now on.
Yeah. Yes, let's say from now, in 1 month from now, we'll have a better understanding of what people are reading on our blog and what they are doing. And the stats will improve over time, of course. But yes, thank you very much, Kindan and Daniel for putting that together. It's great to have stats from all the documentation sources because one is the fact that people can go to GitHub and read there the docs, but I think that's under 1% of our users. Most users will search something on Google and end up on the Flux CD website.
Yeah.
And we didn't have the way to pull those analytics and store them on the long term. Netlify deletes analytics after 30 days, but now we are storing them in Git. We are doing analytics in the Git also. So yeah, we'll have better numbers and better understanding of if what we are doing with the blog is good, or what we are doing with the guides is good. Maybe some guides should move to the blog. I'm not quite sure, but we'll probably see from maybe in the summer or something like that as a time frame. And it will also coincide with the docs refactoring. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, and also regarding statistics, I've been working with the CNCF to get all the blog posts on their blog as well, and I just started tracking like how much they refer to them on their Twitter and elsewhere. So I feel like the news rotation around Flux is a lot better, or has gotten a lot better this year. So I'm very pleased about that.
Nice.
And the last bit is graduation. Like most of you know already, we got the application in, and we're now in the stage where we're working with the TOC to find a sponsor there. And we just started reaching out to a couple of TOC members about this. So I'll keep you posted on that one.
Great.
Yeah, that's all I had. Any last words?
One short thing which is kind of important. I
One last thing.
noticed that most of the repositories, I think they don't have the Go race detector on. And
Yeah, I just noticed that they raised a PR to have the raise detector on for source controller.
so they created it yesterday, and I think he was not sure. He said maybe we disabled it because of issues with Ginkgo, how it runs things parallelly and things were failing. So after I enabled it locally, I saw some issues, race issues, and I'm working on fixing all those in source controller. I think we should enable it in other repositories as well. Stefan, customize, is there any reason not to run in customization? Race detector? Did you have an issue before?
So I have enabled it at some point. Then it failed really badly. But you're right. So we got rid of Ginkgo, and I forgot to enable it back. Yeah,
Okay.
we should definitely enable race everywhere now that we don't have Ginkgo and is no longer like Ginkgo created these global test objects, and that's where the whole problem arrived and got some deadlocks and so on, which are false positives because there wasn't a deadlock in our code.
It's a test code. Yeah.
Test that tested like, yeah, anyway, all that is out, so we can definitely enable race everywhere, race detection.
Okay, that's it.
Great.
Super.
Have a
Thanks a lot,
nice
everyone.
week, everybody.
See you next week. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.